Tejo had survived ambushes, rival syndicates, and government raids, but nothing prepared him for the moment his maid pressed a trembling finger to her lips and whispered two words that shattered his world. Stay silent. The rain in Seoul didn't cleanse. It just made the blood harder to wash away. Taeho Kim sat in the back of his black Genesis G90, watching the city blur past tinted windows. His jaw was tight, his knuckles bruised from the negotiation that had gone south in Busan. He was supposed to be gone for 3 days. The arms deal with the Yakuza collapsed in 3 hours. Exhausted. Disgusted. Done. He told his driver to take him home. No security detail. No announcement. He craved silence. The one luxury his blood-soaked empire couldn't buy. The iron gates of his Gangnam estate opened automatically. The mansion loomed ahead, dark except for a single light in the kitchen. Strange. His wife Min-ji hated the dark. She always kept the chandeliers blazing. Taeho entered. Through the side door, his Italian shoes silent on the marble. The house smelled of jasmine and expensive wine. Empty. Too empty. He moved through the hallway, his hand instinctively hovering near the Glock under his jacket. Then he saw her. Maggie stood frozen near the grand staircase, her dark skin glowing under the moonlight streaming through the glass ceiling. She clutched a feather duster like a weapon, her honey-brown eyes wide with terror. She'd been his maid for 6 months. Quiet, invisible, American with a soft southern accent she tried to hide. He barely noticed her. Until now. Maggie? Taeho said coldly in English, his voice a low rumble. Why are the lights off? Where is my wife? Maggie didn't answer. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. She glanced toward the second floor, then back at him. And then she did something that stopped his heart. She rushed forward, grabbed his sleeve, and pulled him into the shadows beneath the stairs. Her lips brushed his ear. Stay silent. If someone you barely knew risked everything to warn you of danger, would you trust them? Drop your answer below. Taeho's hand shot to his gun, but Maggie shook her head frantically, her fingers digging into his arm with surprising strength. Don't, she breathed, her voice trembling. They'll hear you. They, Taeho hissed. Who the hell? Your wife. Maggie's eyes glistened with unshed tears. And your brother. The words hit him like a bullet to the chest. Taeho had no brother by blood, but Jae-sung was closer than blood. His second in command. The man he'd pulled from the gutter, trained, trusted with his life. You're lying, Taeho growled, but his instinct screamed otherwise. Maggie pulled out her phone with shaking hands, swiping to a voice recording. She pressed play. Minji's voice poured out, smooth as silk. Once the plane goes down over the East Sea, we'll have everything. The accounts, the territory, the connections. Jae-sung's laugh followed, deep and arrogant. And the maid? She saw me let you in last night. Kill her, Minji said casually. Make it look like an accident. I don't want blood on my new carpets. Taeho's vision blurred red. His wife? His brother? Plotting his death like it was a business transaction. He looked at Maggie. Really looked at her for the first time. Her uniform was wrinkled, her natural hair pulled back in a tight bun. She was terrified, but she'd stayed. She'd warned him. Why? Taeho whispered. Why didn't you run? Maggie met his gaze, her chin lifting slightly. Because 3 months ago, your wife fired me for stealing her bracelet. You reviewed the security footage yourself. You proved I was innocent and gave me my job back. She swallowed hard. Nobody's ever fought for me before. Something cracked open in Taeho's chest. Above them, footsteps echoed. They were coming. Would you risk your life to save someone who once showed you a single act of kindness? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more intense stories like this. Taeho pulled Maggie deeper into the alcove as the footsteps descended the grand staircase. We need to leave, Maggie whispered urgently. I know a way out through the... No! Taeho's voice was ice. This is my house. And they're trying to make it your tomb. Maggie's voice cracked. There are men outside. I saw them on the security cameras before they shut them down. At least 12, maybe more. Tejo's jaw clenched. 12 against 1. He was good, but he wasn't suicidal. The footsteps stopped at the landing. Check the garage, Jae Sung's voice commanded. His car is here. He's in the house. Tejo felt Maggie trembling beside him. She was trying to be brave, but fear radiated from her like heat. He made a decision. Can you get us to the servants' quarters without being seen? He asked quietly. Maggie nodded, her eyes wide. There's a passage behind the kitchen pantry. It leads to the old wine cellar. Show me. They moved, like shadows through the darkened hallways. Maggie led him through the kitchen, past the marble countertops where she'd served him coffee every morning, without him ever truly seeing her. She pushed aside a rack of expensive wines, revealing a hidden door. My grandmother was a maid in Georgia during Jim Crow, Maggie whispered as they descended narrow stone steps. She taught me that rich folks always have secrets in their walls. I've been mapping this house since day one. Tejo studied her in the dim light. You're not just a maid, are you? Maggie's laugh was bitter. I have a master's degree in architecture from Howard University, but when you're a black woman with student debt, you take the jobs that pay. She glanced back at him. Even the dangerous ones. The wine cellar was cold, damp, and smelled of earth and aged oak. Maggie locked the heavy door behind them and slumped against the wall, finally allowing herself to exhale. Tejo paced like a caged tiger, his phone in his hand. Dead. No signal in the basement. They've jammed communications, he muttered. Professional. Your brother's been planning this for a while, Maggie said softly. She pulled a small backpack from behind a wine rack. I started keeping supplies down here 2 weeks ago when I overheard them talking. She handed him a bottle of water and a protein bar. Tejo stared at the items, then at her. You've been preparing to save me for 2 weeks? I was preparing to save myself, Maggie corrected, but her eyes betrayed her. You were a bonus. A ghost of a smile crossed Tejo's face. A bonus. Don't let it go to your head, boss man. They sat in tense silence, the sound of footsteps and muffled voices echoing above them. They'll search every room eventually, Tejo said. We need a plan. I have one, Maggie said, pulling out a hand-drawn map of the estate. There's a drainage tunnel that leads to the street behind the property. It was built during the Korean War as an escape. Out. Tejo studied the map, impressed despite himself. How do you know this? I read the original architectural plans in your library, Maggie said. You have first editions in there worth millions, and nobody ever dusts them but me. Tejo looked at her, truly looked at her. Intelligence burned behind those frightened eyes, strength in the set of her shoulders. Why didn't you tell me about the conspiracy sooner? He asked quietly. Maggie's voice dropped to a whisper. Because I didn't know if you'd believe a black maid over your Korean wife. The truth hung between them like smoke. An explosion rocked the house above them. Dust rained from the ceiling. They're getting impatient, Tejo said, instinctively pulling Maggie close to shield her. She didn't pull away. In the dim light, with death hunting them above, Maggie finally spoke. My father was military, she said quietly. Stationed in Korea for 3 years, he fell in love with a Korean woman from Itaewon. My mother, she paused. Her family disowned her for loving a black man. She died giving birth to me. Tejo's expression softened. And your father? Raised me alone until he was killed in action when I was 12. Maggie's voice cracked. I bounced through foster homes, worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. Came to Korea thinking I'd find, I don't know, connection, belonging. She laughed bitterly. Instead, I found rich people who look through me like I'm invisible. I looked through you, Tejo said, guilt sharp in his voice. Yes, you did. Maggie met his gaze. Until that day with the bracelet. You didn't have to check the footage. Your wife's word should have been enough. But you looked anyway. Taeho remembered that day. Minji had been so convincing, her tears so perfect. But something had felt wrong. I saw the way you stood, he said quietly. Your shoulders back, chin up. You weren't guilty. You were insulted. My grandmother taught me never to bow for lies, Maggie whispered. Another explosion, closer this time. We need to move, Taeho said, but he didn't let go of her hand. Taeho? Maggie said, using his name for the first time. If we don't make it, we'll make it, he said fiercely. But if we don't, she continued, I want you to know. I didn't stay just because you were kind once. Then why? Because I saw you, the real you, behind the suits and the blood. Have you ever been invisible to someone until one moment changed everything? Share your story below and subscribe, because this story is about to get crazy. They crawled through the drainage tunnel, mud soaking through their clothes. Maggie led the way with a small flashlight, Taeho close behind. Left here, she whispered, navigating the narrow passage like she'd memorized every turn. You've been down here before? Taeho asked. Twice. I had to make sure the exit wasn't blocked. She glanced back at him. I told you, I plan ahead. They emerged into a small maintenance room beneath the street. Maggie helped Taeho to his feet, and for a moment they stood close, breathing hard, covered in mud and adrenaline. You're bleeding, Maggie said, noticing a cut on his temple. It's nothing. It's not nothing. She pulled out a small first aid kit from her backpack and dabbed at the wound with surprising gentleness. Taeho caught her wrist. Why do you have a first aid kit in your escape backpack? Maggie's eyes met his. Because I've been taking care of people my whole life. It's what I do. Even people who didn't see you? Especially people who didn't see me, she whispered. Because I know what it's like to be invisible. Taeho's thumb brushed across her knuckles. I see you now, Maggie. The moment stretched between them, electric and impossible. We can't, Maggie said, but she didn't pull away. You're a Mafia boss. I'm your maid. Your wife is trying to kill you. This is crazy. I've built my life on crazy, Taeho said, his voice rough. But this, you saving me, risking everything, this is the sanest thing I've felt in years. Taeho. When this is over, he said quietly, I'm going to ask you to stay. Not as my maid, as... A gunshot shattered the moment. They'd been found. Taeho shoved Maggie behind him as the door exploded inward. Jae-sung stood in the doorway, flanked by two armed men. His smile was cold, familiar, devastating. Brother. Jae-sung said mockingly, You always were hard to kill. And you were always a snake, Taeho replied, his hand hovering near his concealed weapon. Jae-sung's eyes slid to Maggie. The maid, I should have killed you first. Try it, Taeho growled. How touching. Jae-sung laughed. The great Taeho Kim, brought low by a woman who scrubs his toilets. Minji will love this. Maggie stepped forward, her voice steady despite her fear. He knows everything. The recordings, the plan, all of it. Recordings can disappear, Jae-sung said, just like people. He raised his gun. Taeho moved instinctively, pulling Maggie down as bullets sprayed the concrete walls. They scrambled through a side exit, emerging into an alley. Split up, Taeho commanded. You run, I'll draw them. No! Maggie grabbed his arm. We stay together. Maggie, you're not trained for this. And you're not dying for me. Her voice broke. I didn't save you just to watch you throw your life away. Why do you care so much? Taeho shouted, frustration and fear colliding. Because I love you, you stubborn fool. Maggie's words echoed in the alley. Silence. Taeho stared at her, stunned. I know it's crazy, Maggie whispered, tears streaming down her face. I know it's impossible, but somewhere between pouring your coffee and saving your life, I fell in love with you. Before Taeho could respond, a van screeched around the corner. Jae-sung's men poured out. Maggie shoved Taeho toward a gap in the fence. Go, please! Not without you. A hand grabbed Maggie from behind, dragging her backward. Taeho reached for her, but a bullet grazed his shoulder. Their fingers touched for one agonizing second. Then she was gone. Taeho collapsed in a safe house 3 blocks away, his shoulder bleeding, his heart shattered. They had Maggie. He pulled out a burner phone and made the call he swore he'd never make. "Detective Park," a gruff voice answered. "It's Kim Taeho. I'm ready to talk." 20 minutes later, Detective Park sat across from him, recording device on the table. "You're confessing?" Park asked skeptically. "I'm making a deal," Taeho said. "Full testimony against the Yakuza networks, the Chinese triads, the Russian Bratva. Every name, every account, every dirty politician. In exchange for witness protection and immunity from Maggie Williams." Park leaned back. "Your maid? Why?" "Because she's innocent," Taeho said, "and because she saved my life." "Where is she now?" Taeho's jaw clenched. "Jae Sung has her. I need your tactical team. Now." Park studied him. "You're willing to burn your entire empire for a woman you barely know?" "I know her," Taeho said quietly. "I know she's brave. I know she's brilliant. I know she risked everything when she had every reason to run." He met Park's gaze. "And I know I love her." Park picked up his radio. "This is Park. I need SWAT mobilized to the Kim estate. High-value hostage situation." Meanwhile, in the mansion's basement, Maggie sat bound to a chair, her lip bleeding. Minji circled her like a shark. "He's not coming for you," Minji said sweetly. "You're the help. Disposable." Maggie smiled through the blood. "You don't know him at all." "I was married to him for 5 years." "And you never saw him," Maggie said. "Not the way I do." Minji's hand cracked across her face, but Maggie's smile didn't fade, because she heard it. Sirens in the distance, and a voice shouting her name. The raid was surgical. Detective Park's team breached the estate from 3 sides. Taeho went in first against protocol, his only thought, Maggie. He found her in the basement, bloodied but alive, her eyes widening when she saw him. "You came," she whispered. "Always," Taeho said, cutting her bonds. "I'll always come for you." Jae Sung and Minji were arrested without resistance, their empire crumbling in real time as investigators seized documents, computers, and offshore account information. 6 months later, Maggie stood on the balcony of a small apartment in Busan, watching the sun rise over the ocean. Her natural hair fell in soft curls around her shoulders. She wore a simple sundress, no uniform in sight. Behind her, Taeho emerged with 2 cups of coffee. "Milk, no sugar," he said, handing her the cup. "Just how you like it." Maggie smiled. "You finally learned." "I'm learning a lot of things," Taeho said, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Like how to be a normal person, how to grocery shop, how to exist without bodyguards." "How's witness protection treating you?" Maggie teased. "Better now that you're here." Under the agreement, Taeho had testified against everyone. His empire was gone, his name cleared legally but forever tainted in the underworld. He'd been given a new identity, a modest pension, and freedom, and he'd chosen to spend it with her. "Are you sure about this?" Maggie asked quietly. "You gave up everything." Taeho turned her to face him, his hands cupping her face with infinite tenderness. "I gave up nothing," he said. "I found everything." He kissed her then, soft and deep, the morning sun warming their skin. Maggie pulled back, her eyes shining. "So what now, Taeho Kim?" He smiled, the real smile she'd first glimpsed in that basement. "Now? We build something real. Together." "No more silence?" Maggie whispered, echoing her first words to him. "No more silence," Taeho promised. "Only truth." And somewhere in that small apartment by the sea, a Mafia boss and the woman who saved him began again. Invisible no more. Would you give up everything for true love? What did you think of Taeho and Maggie's story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more emotional stories that will keep you hooked. What story should I tell next? Let me know.